Okay, so this is the frame we made last week. We could go through it and switch everything off except for the structure. Actually, I won't bother doing that now, and show you the whole thing. But what I want to get into now is the actual layers of the walls, the layers of the roofs, and how you actually control those elements within the project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wall here, and it's just a basic wall at the moment. So I'm just going to add some layers into it just so we have a starting point. So I'm just going to say edit type and add some layers, just a little bit of revision. So insert a few layers here. And let's make the back layer into concrete. Let's say concrete. It doesn't really work with the timber frame house, but I'm only just talking about the principle of it here. We'll make it 200. And let's move that down outside the core boundary. No, sorry, we'll leave that inside the core boundary. Then we're going to put in a thermal layer. I'm going to put in some insulation. That insulation, and we can make that 200 too. Then we put in another layer. This time we're just going to leave it as 50, and it's just going to be air. And then on the outside I'm going to put a finish, and I'm just going to make that brick. Let's just change that to brick. Just whatever brick we have already existing. Let's just use this brick. Use render appearance. Oh, nice brick. And press apply, and OK. So if we preview the wall, it looks like that. And actually, let's move this one down. And I'm going to change this to finish 2, and we'll change this to gypsum plasterboard. And we make that 25. Move this one up. And that wraps, and we change that to structural. Okay. Press OK. Oh, what did I leave 0? Oh, soldier course. That needs to be. Let's make that 102.5, just to be accurate. Apply. Okay. So we have this element here. If I go into level 1, how is it fixed? So it's actually mirrored. So let's just change it around. We'll just mirror them all back outside again. So it's kind of set up. I mean, you wouldn't build a cavity wall with a timber frame in the middle, but this is just to give you an idea as to how the layers will work in it. So let's just switch off the section box so we can see the whole thing. So now we have this wall. I want to control the individual parts of the wall. By that I mean the layers, the brick layer, the insulation layer, and so on, separately. So I can select it, and then I get this option up here, which is called Create Parts. So you can see what happens if I do this, that the wall now is actually split into individual elements based on the layers of the based on the layers in there. If I then want to show the way the construction works, I can now press this button called Displace Elements, and I can take out the outer layer. Oh, I took it all out. Why did I take it all out? Oh, sorry, I didn't change. The mistake I made there is I need to change the visibility of the parts in here. You have these options over here. If I say show original, it just shows the wall as it is. But if I say show parts, it will show the individual parts that I've just made. Now, reset that. I'm going to select this and I'm going to move it out. So now we've got the external leaf of the wall. We've got the thermal layer here. And because you don't usually see a thermal layer of air, all it is air. It's a cavity, so you don't see that as a kind of rectangle of air generally. So what we can do is just exclude that from the view because it doesn't make any logical sense. So then we have the insulation, which we can select, and we can do the same thing, take it out. And we can just continue with this and take out all the parts as we go along. Once we've done that, we can select the edges of it and put a kind of a path in there, and it'll show us where they come from. So it's a very quick way of setting up the idea of how the construction works. However, it hasn't changed the model at all. If I go back to the kind of the properties of the view over here, and I switch from show parts back to show original, it's exactly the same as it was before. So it only changes within the actual drawing that you're looking at. So I just go back into show parts at the moment. So you can continue to go around and use the displace elements tool to create a very simple exploded isometric drawing showing the structure behind, but also the elements within the walls or within the roof or whatever, because it works the same way for the roof. So that's the starting point of it. The other thing that it gives us the opportunity to make a very, very accurate cutting list. So, for example, you don't normally go into a building suppliers and buy an enormous panel of insulation, that's the size of a house, and then stick it on the wall. That doesn't make any sense. So you need to have an idea as to how many elements there are in there. So we can use Revit to make a cutting list for us just by the modular grid that we've set up. So just to show you what I mean here, if I go back into the plan view, I'm just going to, let's just see which one I was working on, parts visibility, show parts. Yeah, it's this one here. Show original. I'm just going to copy these grids down. So I'm going to use the array tool. And I'm going to make, let's say, 8 of them. And I'm going to copy them down by 1200. So I've made a grid, like a modular grid for planning the construction in here, but I can use these grids to actually divide the parts for us. So if I wanted this insulation, for example, if I go back into show parts, to be divided, I can select the insulation, I can say divide, and I can choose intersecting references. And then we get 2 options. We can divide it by level. So let's say I want to cut it at level 2, but I also can choose grids, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to cut it at these grids here. Apply. Okay. So now when I go back into the 3D view, it's taking the insulation back into the model, but if I run the cursor over it, you can see that it's divided it, if I can just grab it there, into individual elements, which I can also displace individually from the construction. So I don't know offhand does anybody know offhand what a roll of rock wool comes in? Is it 1200 or is it 900? I can't remember.
950.
Yeah, it's 950. So you might use a 950 module to divide it up, depending on what the tolerance is between it. I don't know. It's probably 950 because it might compress a bit. So maybe it's 900 when you actually put it in place. So you might use a 900 grid to divide it up. So you can actually take out all the elements. You could do the same exercise with the plasterboard. Depending on what plasterboard type you're using, you could divide up the plasterboard that way as well. You don't have to do this for your entire house, because last semester I had a 4th semester, and one of the groups, a really good group, they did the entire office building and they divided the entire thing into parts, which is just crazy, because you have to think, what's the value out of this? The value is maybe describing how a complex construction goes together, or having a very accurate cutting list of the things that go in there. But there's no point dividing an entire office building into parts, because it doesn't give you any value, or it doesn't speed up the work process in the office there. The very useful time you can use it is, and especially when I'm talking about the 3rd semester videos, is when you're making modular construction, or you're making prefabricated elements that are going to be manufactured in a factory, several iterations of them, one after the other, so you can make a very quick decision as to how they're put together. The other thing we can do is, if you get to an edge there, and the way Revit works is it automatically joins things together, but that's not necessarily the way that it would happen in real life. So you can take the element that you have here, the external the external part, and you can set it to show shape handles. And if I do that, so shape handles. Oh, it's because it's displayed. I need to do it with one that hasn't been displaced. So let's use this one here. Show shape handles. You can actually then individually modify the elements within there. Let's say you want to get it exactly accurate to within a millimeter. You can control it just by dragging elements around, or what else would you do with it? Let's say you're coming at the top of the wall, and usually Revit joins the wall together, but you actually want to make the part step as it would in reality. That's how you would do it with parts and so on. That's one way of doing it anyway. Once we've done all that, we can then, because it's a construction management software rather than design software, we can make a schedule of it. So I'm going to say new schedule of quantities, and I'm going to make a parts schedule. And now I can add anything that I think is going to be useful in the schedule regarding those, let's say we just take those thickness, volume and material, sort them into material types, and straight away, once I've done that, now we have an exact calculation of the amount of insulation within the project. Change that to cutting list. And just by playing with the schedules, we can very specifically say, okay, we've got, in terms of meters squared, in terms of height, in terms of thickness, in terms of volume, whether these things work or not, it doesn't really know, how many there are. So there's enough information here just to be able to calculate, how much insulation you have very, very quickly within Revit. And if you get good at this scheduling, you can then actually get it to calculate the cost of it and take it further into adding formulas, adding geographical modifiers to the cost and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into that, but this is this kind of starting point to it. Once I've done all that, I can set up a sheet, say new sheet. Okay, and I can take the 3D view I've just made, drag it in there, and then I can drag in the schedule of the cutting list and put it there. So you can see that if you just worked on this for a while, you could make up a schedule that has all the cutting list regards the bad insulation, but also you can make up a schedule regarding the timber frame structure, any of the structure in the building, and you can have it all on the same sheet, including an exploded isometric drawing. And it's a very, very nice way of just describing the entire construction without getting into the actual key junction details. Yeah? Questions?
Because now you only did that one wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you make that list,
Yeah.
it only makes that out of.
It's only talking about that wall.
Yeah.
So if you
to be able to make a list of the entire house,
Yeah.
you have to make the entire house out of parts.
yes, but
Or you could just.
remember this is almost more detailed than you need, because just by using the walls itself, it already calculates the volume of insulation in the wall, and that's usually enough information. It's only when you're getting right down to a very specific element that you need to maybe get into such specific about parts. If I did a wall schedule, for example, and I could calculate the insulation in all the walls in here, it wouldn't divide it into cutting lists. But in a wall or in a normal house situation, it doesn't matter. Somebody can figure that out. It's not important. They just need to know how much there is. But it might be important if you're doing like a very carpentered facade with lots of small elements that you need to cut correctly, and it gives you a very, straight away a cutting list of all that stuff. That's when it's really useful. But it's, actually the videos, if I go into the lecture videos here, in the third semester, in prefabrication, in manufacturing, this stuff in here, it goes into much more detail about it, and especially the last two. I don't know if my internet is going to work here. It generally doesn't. The last two talk about it in detail. There's a lot more information in these videos than there is in the classes in general. The internet, I can never get YouTube to run up here. I don't know what it is, but have a look at those, and that'll allow you to set up this project. And remember, this is part of the overall project, but it's also like something you can use to analyze your construction as you go through it. So it's not a finished piece of homework. It's something that you just keep developing as you go along. Okay. Vi spiser.